let's take a look at the things that have happened in China the last couple of days. I think it's very important that we realize that as we see all this Russia phobia that is being hyped by both sides of the political establishment, that as we are attacking and getting aggressive with Russia, nobody is watching our back with China. And it is China that is attacking us. Donald Trump understands that. We're going to talk about the consequences of this. And we're going to, as we talk about these stories, I want you to consider the fact that all the things that the globalists cannot stand about Donald Trump, the fact that he's a nationalist, the fact that he wants to do well for his country, and then even accusing him of a protectionist, all of that is there with China. They are hyper-nationalist. They are hyper-protectionist. They are hegemonic. They're moving in the South China Sea to aggressively. We're going to take a look at all of this here. But first, let's take a look at the fact that China moved, they said, to penalize U.S. automakers. And the question is this in response to Donald Trump's move in approaching Taiwan and saying, we're going to maybe consider this one China policy? That really infuriated them. They say Chinese officials warned that the Chinese government could slap a penalty on an unnamed U.S. automaker for monopolistic behavior. And think about that, the absurdity of that. There is absolutely no way in the kind of protective environment that the Chinese government operates that a automaker, a foreign automaker, an American automaker could have a monopolistic behavior in China. You have to understand the China price has a lot of different elements to it. And of course, Donald Trump is aware of the China price. He had to move his operations, some of them, to China in order to be able to survive, because you can't compete against the China price. It doesn't include just currency manipulation. It also includes internal price fixing. It includes copyright violations, theft of intellectual property. They do all kinds of things in China, and they do not punish piracy as well. So there's a lot of different elements to the China price. We're not going to go into that now, but he understands that. And for the Chinese to accuse Ford and GM of monopolistic behavior is bordering on the absurd. But that's the kind of rhetoric they come up with. They say this came days after Donald Trump talked about Taiwan. This is their shot across the bow, perhaps. They say Trump's rhetorical challenges to a long-established policy towards China has rattled U.S. corporations. See, Trump is the bad guy, not the hyper-nationalist, hyper-protectionist Chinese. It's Trump who's the bad guy. They say profits from Chinese operations for GM was about 20% of their corporate profits. It was about 16% for Ford. And look at the way China is moving militarily. Remember that they've gone into the South China Sea. It's not their sea any more than the Gulf of Mexico belongs to Mexico. They border it, but they've set up these artificial islands very close to the Philippines, which concerns them. It's in waters that have always been considered to be international waters. But now China went in and did a very environmentally destructive thing in building these artificial islands and asserted that they were going to create territory very close to the Philippines and also controlling these international waters. Everybody said, hey, this is not a good thing. We're afraid they're going to militarize this. Oh, no, we're not going to militarize it, they said. And yet this is what they're doing. Reuters reports China appears to have installed weapons, including anti-aircraft and anti-missile systems, on all 7 of the artificial islands it has built in the South China Sea. This is despite statements by the Chinese leadership that Beijing has no intention to militarize the islands in the strategic trade route where territory is claimed by several countries. Now, as we move ahead and we look at this pick of Rex Tillerson for Secretary of State, and of course he still has to get confirmed, and it's amazing, as the Drudge Report pointed out, it was the Kremlinization, very close to criminalization, of Rex Tillerson. When you look at the monitors, as we had in the studio, we had the sound off, and I could see the monitors from the various stations up there. CNN was running this endless loop of military parades in Red Square, of the Kremlin, of the churches with the minarets and everything, and then showing pictures of Rex Tillerson shaking Putin's hand as if he's the only person that Rex Tillerson had ever met. The only friend in the world that he has is Vladimir Putin. No, he's been around to a lot of different countries, but as they talk about this, the Chinese are worried about an easing of relationships between the U.S. and Russia. Friends forever, asks The Guardian. China is wary of Rex Tillerson wooing away Russia. Think about this. The controversial nomination is fueling fears that the president-elect's courtship of the Kremlin could be part of a bold strategic move to isolate China. They said, and think about this, this is the respect the Chinese have for him. He is a very adventurous adventurous strategist, said a foreign policy specialist in Renmin University. This is the way the Chinese see him. They see him as moving very strategically. First to say that, hey, I've got Taiwan over here I can make moves towards. I've also got Russia over here that I can make moves to. And because Russia and China have been moving closer together based on the aggressive confrontational policies of Obama and Hillary Clinton. He goes on to say, if Mr. Putin and Mr. Trump become great friends, then China can do nothing about it. But China will be prepared for some degree of alienation between Moscow and Beijing. Growing Chinese angst that the Republicans might take a harder line on China and seek to drive a wedge between it and Russia was on display Wednesday in the editorial pages of the Global Times, which is a state-run newspaper. So they're concerned about the strategies that Donald Trump is doing. See how he is moving the positions already in terms of how he's going to bring them to the negotiating table. And so China comes out and, as reported by Reuters, says, well, we think that our relationship with America is too big to fail. I've heard that before, and never does that work out good for the American consumer. When Donald Trump becomes U.S. president next month, they said, one issue above all others could force his new administration to work closely with China and underscore that Beijing and Washington need each other. That would be North Korea. So what they're saying is that between China and the United States, they need to come together to try to control North Korea because it is a threat to both countries, quite frankly. A crazy rogue dictator there. And they go on to say the Communist Party mouthpiece paper said the importance of the China-U.S. relationship goes without saying that it is too big to fail. We'll see what happens. They say they were very happy when Trump first won because they thought, hey, we're going to take these guys for suckers. And they said they're not so happy now because they're starting to see the strategic moves that Donald Trump is making.
Right through December 17th, the last day that we can guarantee you'll get your order before Christmas in the United States, we're offering store-wide free shipping. And on top of that, some of the biggest discounts of the year. 30% off Living Defense Parasite Cleanse. 50% off colloidal silver bullet, and free shipping. That is just an incredible deal. Brain Force Plus, now with 20% more in each bottle and 30% off. $19.95, can't beat that deal. Winter Sun, Vitamin D3, 25% off. Survival Shield X2 Nascent Iodine, again an amazing 30% off. BioTrue Selenium, 30% off, and that's just some of the specials. Check them out today at InfoWarsStore.com or InfoWarsLife.com, or call toll free. The great crew will answer your questions, tell you about some of the other specials, and take your order if you'd like. 888-253-3139.